And it's weird that a whole bunch of straight men want to stand around while a bunch of other straight men stand in a line cupping their nuts while you bend over and rub their behinds before you spank them. That's a little pause worthy. I mean, if you're at a Diddy party, it would make sense. But if you're at an institution of higher education, you kind of have to justify that one for me. Starting a business should not be something that's hard for you, even if you need to scale your business. Do me a favor right now. Shoot me a DM on Instagram with the word coach at the business bully, and we'll see what we can make happen for you. I'm sorry, y'all. I'm a little upset. Recently, I was informed of a young man named Caleb Wilson who attended Southern University. And like me, he was a brass player, a very intelligent, talented young man, a bright young man, by all accounts, a very good person. And he wanted to pledge a fraternity. He wanted to pledge Omega Psi Phi. He wanted to be a Q dog, right? Omega Psi Phi fraternity says that friendship is essential to the soul. And what we have here is a situation where Caleb, along with at least 9 other pledges who were online in an unsanctioned ritual, were beaten. And Caleb got beaten in the chest, allegedly. All we do know is that the people who were in charge of these pledges lied and said that the incident took place in a park, and it did not. It took place in a warehouse. It was unsanctioned and, quite frankly, uncalled for. I have several issues here. Number one, no one should have to die to join any organization, let alone one that is black. Haven't black people been beaten enough? This well over 100-year practice of beating people, and before you say, you don't know what you're talking about. You knew I grew up in a Greek household, don't you? You do know that my daddy was a Kappa man. You do know that my uncle was an Alpha man. Do you have any idea why most people will talk about their stories about getting spanked or disciplined with Hot Wheels tracks, extension cords, or belts, which are the top 3 ass-whipping tools in the black family's arsenal? I had to get in a cut from the time I was 7 years old to the time I was 13. And if you're Greek, you know what I just said. Have you had your wood today? No Diddy. But you know what that means. And you know what that is. The idea of wanting it so bad that you can't talk to people while you're pledging, that you can't do normal things while you're pledging, that you have to go through all of these things in order to be considered a brother or a sister, because let's face it, the sororities are whooping ass too. And it's tired. And this is what happens every single year. Someone is getting hurt, maimed, or in this person's case, young Caleb Wilson, unalived, all to wear some letters, all to set out a hop, all to stroll at a party, all to have networking advantages. And I'm not saying that the Divine Nine don't have great things about them. Sure, they donate to charities. Sure, they do after school drives. Sure, they do bike giveaways. They do great things, reading giveaways. I'm not knocking what you do. I'm only knocking the bad things that you do. And if I have to be beaten or maimed or hurt or unalived in order to participate, I think we need to have a real conversation about what's been going on for well over 100 years. We've had these talented 10th Divine Nine Negroes now for well over 100 years. And how has black people's status in America improved? You're supposed to be the best of the best. There's no other way to play psychological games with someone to make sure that they're worthy of your fraternity or sorority other than to take a paddle to their asses, to their bare asses. And it's weird that a whole bunch of straight men want to stand around while a bunch of other straight men stand in a line cupping their nuts while you bend over and rub their behinds before you spank them. That's a little pause worthy. I mean, if you're at a Diddy party, it would make sense. But if you're at an institution of higher education, you kind of have to justify that one for me. Also, at what point do we not say, you know what? We need to take over. We need to mobilize. What's happening in Black America isn't working. But I'm trying to understand how punching someone's chest in and then creating a cover-up around it reeks of anything that is supposed to be academic, supposed to be the best of the best, reeks of a talented 10th, has anything to do with what your founders say that they wanted for Black educated individuals? In the spirit of starting organizations that were started in order to make sure that Black people had just as many advantages that white people who were in fraternities and sororities were giving their own, I gotta say, I imagine that your founders would be somewhat disappointed. There's no justification you can give me for why somebody has to die or be beaten or bruised or bloodied or embarrassed. There is none. And I don't want to hear about not all. One. One incident is one too many. One death is one too many. One hospitalization is one too many. I've gone through processes before. I didn't walk out with one scar. So I'm not saying that it's everybody, but again, I need to reiterate that this should never, ever happen. To quote Iyanla Vanzant from a little show called Fix My Life. Not on my watch, beloved. But oh, the parties be banging and them deltas is thick. Nah, it ain't cute no more. So that y'all can sit up here and act elitist and act like you're better and act like you got it all together. You don't have it all together if somebody who you say, oh, that's my sans, is running around here crafting up a conspiracy so that they don't get locked up. That tells me that crime happened literally worthy of something that would come on the Investigation Discovery Channel or on TV One at 2 o'clock in the morning talking about something that went wrong. But see, we don't want to talk about that. We don't want to talk about the alcohol poisoning. We don't want to talk about the dehydration. We don't want to talk about the water poisoning. We don't want to talk about the starvation. We don't want to talk about the falling asleep during the day in class when you're supposed to be there for an education, all so that you can belong. This is weaponized peer pressure and weaponized elitism to people who just want to have the most expansive, phenomenal college and post-collegiate experience. Caleb Wilson isn't even going to be able to graduate because he's dead. And I want you to tell me how you can justify it. I want you to tell me how, oh, this is just a one-off thing and these things shouldn't happen at all. And nobody who sanctions these, we all know what happens when y'all go offline, when y'all go underground, because people will pledge. And, you know, you'll have the process that everybody can see, and you'll have a nice little probate where everybody comes and they all support and it's all cute and they all come out and they all cheer and so on and so forth. And everybody has gifts and it's all fun and games. But you know what's happening when nobody's looking, when nobody's there to hold you accountable. I want justice for Caleb Wilson and every other person who has been hurt, maimed, injured, or died because you don't want somebody skating into your organization. Well, I imagine that Caleb Wilson's family didn't want to have to be skating into the funeral home, skating to the coroner's office, skating to the police station, trying to find out why their baby, their loved one, died on your watch. What are you talented 10th hoity-toity uppity Negroes doing? I want to know, because I don't see nothing. All I say is more excuses than a hooker in church, and quite frankly, I'm sick of it. And for those of you who aren't there, who aren't a part of these organizations, we need to have some conversations, some real hard conversations to hold these organizations accountable, because this right now shouldn't happen. Investigating after the fact is not only ridiculous, it's lip service, because this should not happen. Because last I checked, when you have these organizations, especially on an undergrad level, they have to have a full-time faculty sponsor. Where the hell is that person? Oh, that's right, not looking. And whoever was in charge of that line, I bet you ain't going to excommunicate them. I bet you ain't going to take their letters. I bet you ain't going to take their chapter. This will get swept away and get tossed under the rug, like all of these murders, these deaths, these accidents that should not have happened. Because if it was sanctioned, there shouldn't be any need for any secrecy, because what ritual requires you to be punched in the chest to the point where you no longer breathe? If this is the best Black people got, no wonder Black people have been so lost, because you've had 100 and some odd years. Some of you have had well over 120 years. What do we have to show for it? Because Caleb Wilson's death shows that some of y'all need to get a life.